Hi everyone and welcome to this session. This is the third session in the L&D case study for learning needs identification. Please do see the earlier two videos for the details. I'll just do a very quick recap. We started by defining the business problem that can a training needs analysis be done to decide which areas and subjects should be covered. The data that the company has is for the admin and finance department. And there is, in the beginning of the year, every employee is put through some digital programs on the LMS. The scores of these LMS exercises is available. Can these scores be used to create the learning need identification? The data, of course, we started off by collecting the data, which was in two parts: the job class information, where for every job family, there was an understanding of the organizational competencies, department competencies, and for the individual competency. The second set was the LMS data, where you had the scores that each person had got from the admin and finance departments for these types of competencies. And then we had combined this data to create some extra scores, if you might remember, which is part of the derived variables that we created. The getting the data together, and then we did some organizing of the data, which is the missing values. We looked at outliers, dummy variables, and derived variables. And now we are looking at doing the fourth step, which is visualizing the data. The way to go about the visualization is simple. On this combined data, we can just go and insert a pivot table, which is easy. On top, there is a tab called Insert. Choose the entire data and click on From a pivot table to get the pivot. As you remember, I quite enjoy to look at the pivot in the classical display because it allows me to pull and drag and drop fields out here. So this is how I have done it. And then in the pivot, I have looked at the department, and for the departments, the average overall scores, organizational competency scores, department competency scores, and individual competency scores. This data has been taken and we have put it up in this visualization tab. You will notice that both of these two graphs which I've created are graphs which are called combination combo graphs. How does this work? It allows me to plot two different scales, like the count of employee IDs versus the overall scores, which is going to be between 0 and 100, but the count of employee IDs could be on a different scale, right? If I try to put it together, a percentage does not go well with count. So what you do is you can actually choose this data, and if you go to insert again and look at the recommended charts, you will notice a tab called All Charts. And in this All Charts tab, there is at the bottom an option of combo. When you look at the combo, it allows you to give a secondary access to one of the calculations that you have put out there. And then if you just press OK, what you get is a graph which is much more easier to interpret. So what we find in the interpretation here is that the admin staff have above average scores as compared to the finance department. So they have 5% more scores on an average. Now, is this, the next thought was, is this actually related to department or is it related to levels in the organization? And this is an interesting exercise that came through, because what we found is that the middle managers is where the scores dip. Okay. The juniors have scored pretty much good, and you find that the seniors have also scored pretty much good. So what is wrong here in the middle, where the count of people is of course the largest? So this is a discussion that should happen with the management, like, is this what is desirable? Then the third thing we look at is this trend of the admin department doing better than finance applicable for all the scores or only for the overall organizational score? And here you will notice that it is applicable for all the scores. But what is interesting is that the average of the individual scores, right, that is the lowest for amongst all the scores. So somewhere recruitment seems to be happening for organizational competencies and the department competencies, but there doesn't seem to be so much emphasis on the individual competencies. So let's go ahead and put all this information here into the summary file. So here we put the insights that we just got, and we move to the next phase, which is the analyze phase. In the analyze phase, we're going to be looking at descriptive statistics, which is the mean, median, standard deviation, minimum, maximum. And these are going to help us understand that who are the people who actually need intervention and in which set of competencies. So let's go ahead and do it. I have, of course, added the screenshots here, but it is also pretty easy to do. If you remember, we just go to the data tab, and out here on the top right side, we have the data analysis button. This is a free add-in, the data analysis toolpath. And just go ahead and look at descriptive statistics. On clicking out here, we can choose the range of data. So I have gone back to the combined 3 sheet, which has all the data together. If I choose the range of data, and I can just say labels in the first row, and I want the summary statistics, and click on OK, I'll get the summary statistics. Now, what is it that we have got in the summary statistics? There are, of course, the overall scores for the organization, and then you have the organization scores, department scores, and the individual scores. And what we really need are these few elements called mean, median, standard deviation, minimum, and maximum. Why are these important for us? Let's look at the reason and then come back to this sheet. The reason for this is this 98, 95, 99.7 rule for normal distributions. So the bell curve is something you all know, and normal distributions help us come to good conclusions. Of course, in HR nowadays, people have stopped using it for appraisals and the like, but the utility of a normal distribution, the way the data is distributed in the organization is very important, and it helps us come to multiple conclusions. So if you feel you need more information on normal distributions, do let me know, and I'll put up a video on that. So we saw how we had created all the statistics in the combined data sheet 3. And from there, I have brought the same tables out here. So the first is the overall scores. Then you have the organizational score, department score, and individual scores for all employees, the admin employees, and the finance employees. I just take out this particular calculations here because this is what we need. We saw the normal distribution, and this is what we really need. And for that, how do we go about it? The first thing to establish is that is the data normally distributed itself. And how would we do it? So mathematically, if the mean is nearly equal to the median, then we can conclude that the data is normally distributed. So what I do is I just do a simple division here, mean divided by median, to find that is it normally distributed. Then ideally the value should be between 95 and 105. So other than two of these values here that you see, 113 and 125, all of them are meeting the parameters. So we just assume that it's yes for all of them. Then we look at the therefore what we have now is the 68% of the most common scores. So for that calculation, we do mean plus 1 standard deviation and mean minus 1 standard deviation. Again, from this chart here, so if I just do it, you can see it's mean plus 1 standard deviation, mean minus 1 standard deviation. You can just pull the formula across. And therefore, what we get is the range of the most common values. That see, even the most common people, or 68% of the population of employees, where have they scored. Okay, and from this we come to the lower limit. Okay, so anybody who's lower than this limit of mean minus 1 standard deviation, they should be sent for retraining. Okay. Now, there are recommendations after this also, after these insights which I have put out. Like here you can see everyone is scoring low in the individual job competencies in both the departments. Now, this can mean any one of the two things. Either the LMS course assessment is tough for the individual competencies, else at the point of hiring, the focus is not on the individual job role competencies. It seems to be on the organizational competencies and the department competencies. Is this by design or has it just come up? Of course, one more cause of concern is that the middle managers who form the bulk of the staff seem to or have lower scores too. So these are the points of discussion which should come up when you're presenting this case study to the senior management. I do hope you have enjoyed this, and we do keep putting in the description below a couple of free tests, free surveys. Stay tuned. I'll come in for the next case study in the next video.